If you get frustrated every time you go to write a melody for one of your songs, then even just making one of the mistakes I'm going to talk about in this video could be seriously holding you back. And how do I know? Well, because I've made every single one of them. As a beginner, I'd write melodies so forgettable that I couldn't even remember them the next day, or they wouldn't sound right with the lyrics I've written, or they just sound plain messy. And when you're starting out, this can be an absolute nightmare because you end up thinking that you either have to spend years learning music theory or just accept the fact that you're born with it or you're not. So in this video, I want to share what these mistakes are and, more importantly, how to fix them. But before we get into that, let me ask you this: what's the one thing better than being able to fix your mistakes? Well, it's not making them in the first place. Every songwriter dreams of coming up with the perfect melody, one that's catchy yet interesting and hits you hard with the right emotion. And after 30 years as a songwriter, there's one lesson I wish I had known right from the beginning, and it's the simple truth about coming up with a catchy melody. Look at these two examples and see if you can spot what simple thing they have in common.
Sometimes in our life, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. Do it all, everything on our own.
The human head brain is amazing. It can process 11 million bits of information per second, apparently. But ironically, that all happens on an unconscious level. The average person can really only handle 3 to 4 bits of information on a practical level. And it's the same when we're listening to music. Too much information gets confusing. So if you want to create one of those catchy earworms, keep it simple. Sexy. But here's the thing: when people hear simple, they think easy. And the truth is, simple and easy are not the same thing. Yes, you need to keep it simple to create that earworm, but you have to keep it interesting to keep people listening. And that brings us to our first mistake. Avoiding this first mistake won't just make your songs better, it'll make sure that your tunes actually stick in people's heads. And honestly, if you want to write melodies that feel more like the songs you love, this is something that you need to get the hang of. Think of it like this: were you ever at a party and you got stuck talking to someone who just went on and didn't get to the point of what they were saying? Well, a melody that wanders aimlessly has the exact same effect. So to avoid writing a melody that's hard to follow and easy to forget, you want to give it some structure. And the easiest way to add structure to a melody is to use patterns. So have a look at this example and see if you can spot the pattern it's using. The easiest way to give your melody structure is to use those repeatable patterns. And that way, the repetition makes your melody familiar. But repetition gets, well, repetitive, and that's monotonous. So that's when you balance the repetition with some variation to keep it interesting. And in the example, you can see one of the most reliable patterns that you can use. You introduce a motif, repeat the motif, and then you do something different. So imagine you're in the middle of that mind-numbing conversation and suddenly you hear your best friend's weird snorty laugh and you think, oh, that's Dave's laugh. You recognize it straight away. It's unmistakable because it's like well, I can't do it, but that's like a motif. It's a bit in a song that you can recognize straight away. It's a snippet of a melody that you hear getting repeated throughout a song, giving the tune its own distinct personality, just like Dave's weird laugh. But we'll come back to motifs in a bit because there's more than one way to write a melody. And that's where you can use this second technique to add some structure. So listen to this example and see if you can spot the pattern. So imagine after you hear Dave's laugh, you say to the head melter, hey, what's that behind you? And when they turn around, you make a beeline straight for Dave. That's called an Irish goodbye. And then you're all like, hey Dave, what are you doing here? And Dave's all like,
oh, I go where I'm needed, my friend.
Because that's the type of thing Dave would say. He's a weirdo, but you love him. More importantly, when you ask your friend a question, they answer it. And in the example, the melody is using a question and answer pattern. That's where you alternate between two different phrases: the question or call phrase and the answer or response phrase. But what's the difference between a motif and a phrase? Well, the motif is that little small bit of a melody that pops up and gets repeated throughout the song, like Dave's weird laugh. But a melodic phrase is more like a full sentence. It's longer than a motif, and it feels more like it has a beginning, middle, and end. I know what you're probably thinking right now. Who the hell is Dave? But what you should be thinking is, how can I use these repeated patterns throughout my song without it becoming too predictable or monotonous? And this is something I learned the hard way, because it cost me and my first band a record deal. See, back in the early 2000s, we released an independent single that managed to crack the top 10 in Ireland, catching the attention of Sony Ireland's A&R man. We thought this was our big break when we sat down and had a meeting with him. He listened to the track and he said, "It's not bad, but I don't hear a hit. I don't hear anything that grabs me." And as we sat there in a haze of shock and embarrassment, he said, "Come on lads, you wouldn't throw a birthday party and not have a cake." It took me a while to figure out what the hell he was talking about, but eventually it clicked with me. Every melody needs a wow moment. Think about it like this. Imagine you were throwing a birthday party for Dave. Now, you and Dave have been friends for ages and you've had a lot of nights out. So, how are you going to make this party different than every other night out you've had? Dave deserves better than that. You want his party to be a roller coaster ride of emotions that he soon won't forget. And that's when you bring out the cake. Have a look at this example and see if you can spot where they bring out the cake. You see, structure will give your melody a direction, but a direction without a destination is useless for making an impression. And just like the party builds up to the moment of the cake and then starts to wind down, you want to give your melody that same kind of high point, what's known as a melodic climax. You want your melody to build to a point that feels the most dramatic or the most emotional. Now, you can give each section its own melodic climax, or you can save it for the chorus. Either way, you want to pick one that is the real high point of the melody. One party, one cake. It's going to depend on the song and what feels right to you, but this melodic climax is often one of the main ingredients that stirs up strong emotions. However, this is where a lot of beginners can fall prey to the next mistake, because strong emotions are often strongest when they're specific. So you want to make sure that your party can deliver the exact vibe and emotional depth that you're after. And luckily, there's a secret weapon that you can use to create just the right emotion in your melodies. Have a look at this example and see if you can spot what has given the melody its emotional flavor. See the space in between the notes? Well, those little puppies give you the tools to dial up the exact emotion you want in your melody. Whether it's bringing someone to tears, getting them moving on the dance floor, or ready to go out and start a revolution. Puppies can't start a revolution.
But they'll never take our freedom!
They're known as intervals, but how do you use them to create emotion? Imagine Dave's party got a bit out of control and you ended up having one too many lemonades and you fell down the stairs. Now, the party's not over, so you want to get back up the stairs and finish the night off. Picture each step of the stairs as a note on a musical scale. And we call these scale degrees. And the distance you move when you go from one step or note to another is an interval. They're the distance between scale degrees. So, for example, if you're on the first step or the first scale degree and you move to the next one, that's called a step. You're using the notes next to each other. If you skip a step and go to the third one, that's called a jump. And if you go from the first step to the fifth step, that's called a leap. It means the distance between two notes is more than 4 scale degrees. But the names aren't important. What is important is how they sound and how they feel, because each one of those moves is going to create a certain feel in your melody. Some intervals sound happy, some sound sad, some sound tense, some sound relaxed. Melodies that use steps are easier to sing and sound more conversational. And that's why in a lot of songs, the melody in the verse will often mostly use steps. Melodies that move in leaps will be more dynamic, because the bigger the move, the more dramatic it's going to sound. And that can often be a great way to create contrast between, say, a verse and a chorus. So, Depending on what section of the song you're working on and what vibe you want in your melody, experiment with what intervals you can use to create that vibe. Remember earlier we were talking about motifs? Well, very often the key to a good melody is creating a good motif. Think of them as a way to make any party unforgettable. And here's the thing, no one threw a party quite like the Beatles. They used all the tricks a songwriter can use to make their melodies unforgettable. In fact, today's hits still use those same tricks. If you watch this video next, I'll show you how they made great motifs and, more importantly, how you can use those same techniques to throw a party that not even Dave would soon forget. What's that over there?